The classification passed through the Galactic Registry in under a second, a simple downgrade that erased centuries of human progress with a single phrase, non-threatening civilization. And across the core worlds no one reacted because labels like that were common and usually final. But on Earth the notice landed differently, not with panic or outrage, but with a quiet pause as analysts reread the assumptions attached to it. Limited military projection, fragmented command structure, no strategic. Deterrence beyond local space. And the irony was painful because every point was technically true if you ignored what humans never advertised. While alien patrols began drifting closer to Sol under the excuse of routine observation and trade restrictions tightened like a polite fist, human ships were searched, delayed, redirected. And still Earth made no announcement, no speeches, no protests, just silence. The kind that made the galaxy comfortable until one patrol crossed the exclusion line. Near Luna and found its sensors flooded with echoes of fleets that did not appear on any registry, signatures layered and masked, ancient and modern at the same time. And for the first time the patrol commander asked for clarification instead of issuing orders, because Earth was still smiling diplomatically while quietly reactivating systems that had never been meant to be seen. And when the registry finally updated again, it did not reclassify humanity as hostile or dominant. It simply removed the entry entirely, as if Earth no longer needed to be labeled at all. And that was when the galaxy understood the mistake. Because threats shout, powers posture, but civilizations that know they can end a war before it starts do neither. When Earth was classified non-threatening, the decision was celebrated across the inner systems as proof that the model still worked, that aggression could be predicted and power could be measured, and humanity checked neither box. So observation fleets replaced diplomats, and pressure replaced dialogue. Terrorists appeared overnight. Human colonies were boxing by revised borders that no one had voted on. And the galaxy waited for the usual response. Protests, concessions, maybe a fractured retreat. But what came instead was nothing at all. No emergency broadcasts, no mobilization notices, just a sudden shift in traffic patterns as human vessels rerouted with unnatural precision, avoiding conflict while mapping everything. And when the first border station vanished from the network, the assumption was malfunction, until the second followed. Then the third, each one intact but unreachable, wrapped in interference fields so clean they looked intentional, and only then did analysts notice the error in the original report, the part dismissed as cultural noise, where humans describe restraint not as weakness but as policy, and by the time the classification committee reconvened, Earth was no longer inside any enforceable boundary, because you cannot threaten something that has already positioned itself beyond your reach. The report that classified Earth as non-threatening relied on observable behavior, limited response history, cooperative diplomacy, controlled military output, and from a distance it all made sense, because humans talked loudly about peace and showed very little force. So the surrounding powers adjusted their posture, patrols drifted closer, surveillance increased, and minor violations were logged without consequence, until the day a human science vessel was detained for inspection and its crew complied without resistance, smiling, answering questions, stalling for time, and while the inspection dragged on, something subtle happened across 3 sectors as human deep space relays switched protocols in perfect unison, old ones, pre-Federation, pre-treaty, and by the time the vessel was released the galaxy had already lost accurate tracking on half of humanity's mobile assets, which was when fear finally entered the conversation. Because a non-threatening species does not bother hiding, but a prepared one hides only after it has finished counting, and Earth had just finished counting everything. Earth was classified non-threatening because it never answered provocation the way the galaxy expected. No retaliation, no escalation, no dramatic shows of force, just calm statements and delayed responses, which made the surrounding powers comfortable enough to start pushing, testing borders, taxing routes, claiming oversight, and each move was logged by human observers who never raised their voices or their fleets, until one minor incident forced a review when a remote listening post was seized and found completely empty, not destroyed, not abandoned, just cleared with precision. And as investigators expanded the search, they found more like it, installations removed cleanly from reality, resources stripped, data wiped, and the realization spread too late that Earth had not been standing still during pressure. It had been disengaging, consolidating, and preparing. Because the most dangerous thing a civilization can do is stop needing the systems designed to control it. And humanity had just done exactly that. Earth was classified non-threatening because its defenses were invisible, its fleets rarely deployed, and its leaders spoke in careful, reasonable tones. So the surrounding powers adjusted their models and marked humanity as manageable, a background civilization to be shaped by policy instead of force. And the pressure increased slowly. Inspections became seizures, escort became blockades, and still Earth complied, until a trade convoy vanished near the outer markers and investigators found. The ship's days lay to drifting peacefully, crews unharmed, cargo untouched, but every foreign system aboard permanently disabled, a message delivered without a single casualty, and the report that followed did not call it an attack, it called it a demonstration, because the analysts finally understood that humanity had not been avoiding conflict out of fear, but out of discipline, and that a non-threatening species does not neutralize enemies without firing a shot, only one that knows exactly how much damage it is capable of causing. Earth was classified non-threatening because it followed every rule the galaxy wrote, respected every border it was given, and never answered provocation with spectacle. So the surrounding powers learned to lean on that restraint, rewriting access laws, inserting oversight teams, slowly treating human space as a shared resource, and Earth allowed it, right up until the moment a foreign task force attempted to assume permanent control of a relay hub, and discovered the station had already been transferred, not to another power, but to no one at all, its registry wiped, its control cores locked behind encryption that did not exist in any known system, and when demands for explanation were sent to Earth, the reply was brief and courteous, stating that humanity had removed itself from any framework that no longer recognized its sovereignty, and that all future incursions would be interpreted as deliberate acts, which was when the galaxy finally realized that non-threatening was not a measure of strength, but a description of intent, and intent can change. Earth was classified non-threatening, and the galaxy believed it had tamed compliant world. But the moment came when one border patrol ignored protocol and crossed into unmonitored space, expecting submission or retreat, and instead encountered human assets perfectly positioned, fully operational, and entirely invisible until triggered. Fleets that had never been catalogued, weapons tested but silent, communications encrypted and untraceable, and the patrol never fired a shot before it was surrounded, contained, and guided back to safe space, unharmed but forever aware, and that was humanity's message, quiet, precise, and absolute, that non-threatening did not mean powerless, that restraint had been deliberate, and at the moment anyone assumed irrelevance as weakness, the galaxy's borders themselves could burn without a single explosion, because a species that has calculated every move, every possibility, every consequence does not need to strike first to assert dominance, and Earth had just proven that to all who thought it could be ignored.